let's get started. Welcome to our workshop on improving PDF accessibility. We're going to talk about some different strategies for ensuring that our PDFs are accessible, some rationales for why they need to be accessible, and I'll show you some demonstrations of some tools that we can use. I'll be your presenter today. My name is Amanda Hirsch. I'm the Assistant Director of Teaching Excellence and Support in the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning at NIU. I've been teaching college writing and literature for over 17 years, and I've been with CITL for about 6.5 years. Before joining CITL, I did start my journey at NIU as a graduate teaching assistant in the English department, where I earned my master's and PhD in English while teaching first-year comp and literature survey courses and advising English majors and minors. So if you have any questions, I can take them throughout and at the end of the presentation. If you have specific questions related to what we're covering, go ahead and post those to the chat. I'll address them as they come up. Or you can just wait until the end if you'd prefer. So our goals for today are to learn why PDF accessibility is important, to see what the law says around document accessibility, how to check if a PDF is accessible or readable, and how to add tags, adjust reading order, and use headings and alt text using multiple tools. So why does accessibility matter? Accessible PDFs benefit all students in a universal design perspective. PDFs that have been made accessible are easier to navigate. They're searchable. They can be accessed by text-to-speech, TTS, or screen reader software. And by creating accessible course content, students using those assistive technologies, such as Kurzweil or JAWS, can listen to their course readings. So the law, Americans with Disabilities Act Title II is the law that covers accessible documents. So let's talk about what is changing and why it matters. The Department of Justice finalized revisions to Title II in April of 2024. And oops, I just, it's a button. These updates require all public entities, including state universities like NIU, to ensure that their digital content and technologies are accessible to individuals with disabilities. So this is the benchmark that NIU needs to meet for its websites, for course materials, for mobile apps, for other digital platforms. And this change means that digital accessibility is no longer just a best practice. It's actually a federal compliance requirement tied to our public mission, our equity goals, and our legal obligations. So because NIU is a large public university serving a population of over 50,000 through both institutional scope and local jurisdiction, so it's not just about how many students we have, it's about the community around us and how many people we serve as a public institution. We need to be in compliance with the new Title II rule by April 24th, 2026. And this rule applies to all of the digital content and services at NIU, including our public websites and portals, course materials in Blackboard, PDFs, PowerPoints, other instructional documents, digital tools, and third-party applications used in courses or campus operations. So faculty are primary creators of digital course content, syllabi, readings, assignments, lecture slides, handouts, media. So under Title II, any digital material made available to students through NIU systems, including Blackboard, websites, shared drives. So if you share something through OneDrive, a document, or share something via email, it needs to meet those WCAG 2.1 AA standards. So for PDFs, this means that the document needs to be tagged and navigable. Text must be machine readable. It can't be a flat scan. Headings need to be properly structured. Images and figures have to include alternative text. Reading order and contrast needs to support usability. And faculty adoption of accessible practices directly supports NIU's compliance. And more importantly, it ensures that students can access, perceive, and engage with materials equitably. So key requirements that we should be aware of, examples of effective course materials include PDFs, include Word documents, PowerPoints, Blackboard pages, video lectures, even third-party integrations like publisher tools or apps that are used in class need to be accessible. So today we're focusing on PDFs. We also have had this semester some workshops on Word document accessibility, on Blackboard Ally. So you can probably find recordings of those, and I'll try to include recordings of those, links to those recordings in our YouTube channel in my follow-up email, if I can access those if they've been posted yet. So there's some principles that we need to follow with accessibility in documents and PDFs particularly. So the one principle is that it needs to be perceivable. So what this means in practice for faculty is that text is clear and readable, images have alt text, and videos are captioned. Another principle is that it should be operable. So what that means in practice is that content can be navigated by keyboard and assistive technology like screen readers. The next principle is understandable. So what it means in practice is that there's a logical structure with consistent heading styles, simple navigation, and clear instructions. The next principle is that it should be robust. So what that means is that materials need to work with current and potential future assistive technologies. So what we need to do and how to prepare for this, we should ideally create accessible materials from the start. So using heading styles, adding alt text for images and figures, exporting PDFs with tags rather than scanning. So ideally we would do that. We can also check our PDFs and course files in a few different ways. We can use Adobe Acrobat Pro's accessibility checker or Blackboard Ally, which is built into Blackboard to identify and fix issues. And we all, as faculty and staff at NIU, we all have access to Adobe Acrobat Pro. If you don't have that on your device, then you'll want to contact IT and they can install that on your device for you. But that's a really useful tool and I'll show you that as well. We want to also remediate any legacy materials, so replace any scanned documents that we're using with text-based versions whenever possible, just to make it easier on ourselves with accessibility, because it's easier to replace the document with a text-based version if it's available than it is to make the scanned document accessible. There's a lot more work that goes into making a scanned document accessible. Be intentional with our visuals, so ensure that text has sufficient color contrast, that images aren't blurry or faded in our PDFs. We can also collaborate with our support units. So the Center for Innovative Teaching and Learning can provide guidance on accessible course design. DoIT Accessibility Services can assist with technical accessibility testing and remediation. And the Disability Resource Center can offer insight into how accessibility supports student success and to help us generate accessible course materials for students with disabilities when they have an accommodation. So we want to just kind of keep in mind throughout that accessibility is not just about compliance, though. That is a big part of it, and that's, you know, kind of a push for us right now with that deadline looming in April. But it's a form of inclusive pedagogy that improves learning for everyone, including our students with disabilities, but not just for them. So again, here's that list of the points that I just talked about. So again, this is the Title II rule for Americans with Disabilities Act and the requirement for a WCAG 2.1 level AA compliance in 2026. So why this is a good thing for students in teaching. Accessible materials mean that all students can participate fully. So this is really good for equity, for inclusion, for learning outcomes. It helps us to reduce barriers, and those barriers can be visual, cognitive, navigational. It improves usability and satisfaction for students. We might need fewer special accommodations if the baseline is accessible. So if we create all of our course materials accessibly, then that reduces the need for students to ask for or seek accommodations, which reduces those barriers, particularly for students without the resources maybe to get a diagnosis or to see a doctor to get that documentation that they need for an official accommodation. Accessible design often aligns with, as I mentioned, universal design for learning principles. So again, this means clear headings, meaningful alt text, navigable documents. And those are things that help everyone. We're also demonstrating that the university is committed to accessibility, and that sends a strong message about our institutional values, our inclusion, student-centeredness. So our mission at NIU emphasizes equity, inclusion, and student success, and meeting these standards aligns with those values. Accessible content supports people like first-generation students who benefit from clear navigable materials, students with temporary or situational impairments, for example, someone with a broken arm or low bandwidth or glare, neurodiverse learners who benefit from structured readable documents. So by designing these accessible course materials now, we can demonstrate our ongoing commitment to reducing barriers and serving all students equitably. So scanned PDFs are a big problem. And what is the problem with those? So they're images of the document. And as such, just as a scanned document, they're unable to be read by a screen reader. And depending on the quality of the scan, it may not even be visually readable to our students, our sighted students. And unfortunately, PDFs are completely inaccessible if they're just scanned images. I'll tell you one way that you can check whether it's a scanned image or whether it's actually readable as text. To make an image-based PDF accessible, you're going to need to convert the text using optical character recognition software. Anthology Ally's alternative formats, Blackboard Ally's alternative formats, or Adobe Acrobat Pro can help with that. And I'll give an overview of that today. One way that you can check this, and I think I'm going to go over that later, but you can use Adobe to convert to a Microsoft Word document or to save as Microsoft Word document. And then when you open it in Microsoft Word, if you click on it, is there text there? So can you highlight text, or does it like highlight the entire image of the text? And if that happens, then you know that it's an image and it's not OCR'd. So accessible, again, means that text can be selected, copied, not just images. It's screen reader friendly. There's proper tagging. There's good structure. Again, scanned images are often image only and they score very low. And we do have a few different options for checking PDF accessibility. And you might want to check multiple different ways. So Adobe Acrobat Reader is free. You can open the PDF. You can try highlighting text. You can try using the read aloud feature. You can check the document properties, but the best tool to use from Adobe is Acrobat Pro, which again, you have access to that through our institutional license. So if you don't have that installed, again, contact DoIT and they can help you get that installed on your computer. But you would go to tools, then go to accessibility, and then do a full check or check for accessibility to generate a report of issues. Blackboard Ally, when a PDF is uploaded in your course materials, Ally automatically gives you an accessibility score. So it'll be low, medium, high, perfect, and it'll show you issues. And then like I mentioned before, you can also check in Microsoft Word. So if you can open your PDF, you can save it as a Microsoft Word document or convert it to Microsoft Word. If it converts properly, then you can go from there, or an open source PDF editor. But this is a less detailed way to check. And you can't do anything about it when you open it in Microsoft Word. If it's an image, it's an image. You can't convert it in Microsoft Word. So you're going to have to do the OCRing and the more work in Adobe Acrobat Pro from there. So if a PDF is image only, if it's scanned, it needs OCR, or we need to recreate it from a source document. You can use the accessibility report or accessibility checker earlier in your workflow to catch major issues before students struggle. So before we share something in our course, if we've already shared it, then it's not too late. We can still check it. So treat PDFs not just as print, but as digital documents, and their structure matters. So that's important for student success, but also because of the law stuff that we were talking about. All right, so Anthology Ally has instructor feedback. So you'll notice there's a gauge when you upload a file to your Blackboard course, there's a little gauge on the right-hand side of the file name, and it tells you how accessible that file is. You can click on that gauge and come to your instructor feedback for that particular file, and it will tell you what's wrong with it, accessibility-wise. So what can be improved with accessibility. And one new feature that we have that just became available is the PDF quick fixes. So let me grab the link here to this. There's a how-to page, and I'll send this link via email and my follow-up email as well. But I just want to grab it for you and post this in the chat in case you wanted to take a look at it before I have a chance to send you that email, which probably won't be until the morning. So there's PDF quick fixes. It's not 100%, it's not going to make your document 100% accessible, but it will help a lot. It'll improve. So when I did a quick fix on a sample document, and I'll show you how to do that. Let me open that up. Browser, and then I'll share my screen because I have this set up in one of my shell courses, but it improves the accessibility considerably. So it goes from 0 to, you know, a more accessible document. All right. Share this window. Okay, so here's my document. It's got low accessibility. It's a scanned document. This is something that I scanned for myself, not for students. So I'm using it as an example because I'm personally going to be using it, but nobody else is going to. So we'll click on that icon and it will take us to our accessibility score, our instructor instructions here. So the PDF is scanned, it says. You can click and say, what does this mean? It explains what that means. And then you click the right arrow here and it tells you why to avoid scanned documents. And it gives you those reasons, prevents searching, blocks copy and paste, unusable for students with visual impairments, can be hard to read for, you know, students who are sighted. So we can do a quick fix on this. So we'll click preview and apply. And this is going to help us to OCR. So I'm going to click apply. And then we'll see that, okay, great. And it will automatically download a copy. But it gave us 36%. So not awesome, but much better than 0%. And then it explains, you know, what are the remaining issues to resolve. So the PDF does not have headings. That's the issue that we need to resolve. So that's something that we would need to then do. We can download this version that is OCR'd already by the Ally Quick Fix, PDF Quick Fix, and then we can use something like Adobe Acrobat Pro to add headings to it. All right, so let me just come back here. Oops, sorry, you hear my dogs barking in the background. Get back to where we're at. So that's one useful tool. That's something easy. It helps. It OCRs it, so it makes it more accessible than it was. But you know, there's still some work that needs to be done to get it up there. But it is better than 0. So in accessible PDFs, each content element, heading, paragraph, list, table, image is tagged with semantics so that assistive technology like screen readers knows how to navigate it. OCR stands for optical character recognition. So as I mentioned before, when a PDF is scanned, it takes the picture of the document so that it's one big image. It has no text that can be understood by a screen reader in its data. So it's not accessible for someone who has low or no vision or uses a screen reader for other reasons like a learning disability. It also makes it less useful for all students because the text isn't searchable. So if it's like a longer text, for example, and a student's studying and they need to find a particular piece of information, they're not going to be able to search the text in order to find that information. So that's one way that, you know, it could affect all students as well. A scanned PDF is, again, one giant graphic. It's not searchable, not editable, not usable by screen readers. A PDF that's OCR'd is text-based, it's searchable, it's editable, and it's usable by screen readers. So OCRing a document, again, isn't the last step in making the document accessible. Depending on the quality of the scan, the OCR might not be able to read and convert all of the text in the document, so you'll want to check the document's accessibility yourself. You can do this by running it through a screen reader, if you have a screen reader, or by using the read aloud feature in Acrobat Pro. Another important component of making a document accessible is adding tags to the document. So the tags are important because it's easier for a screen reader to navigate easily through that document when it has tags. And you can do this in a few different ways. You can create a Word document or PowerPoint using styles and headings and following other accessibility recommendations, and then convert that to a PDF using Save As a PDF. We never want to use print to PDF because that does not create or retain any of the accessibility features that we've already built into our documents. So instead of print as PDF, we want to save as PDF. If you don't have the original document, you can't find an accessible version, you can still make sure that it's OCR'd, making it somewhat readable. You can use Blackboard Ally to do that. You can also use Adobe Acrobat Pro to do that. Most scanners also have an OCR option in their settings. So if you're using a scanner, the library, for example, talk to a librarian about, you know, how to scan using an OCR option and see if that's possible. You can use Acrobat Pro to add and edit tags for your document. That could be, depending on the length of the document and the document itself, that could be a painstaking process. So again, just remediating PDF files takes a lot more time than creating an accessible Word file, for example, and then saving it as a PDF. And again, don't use the print as PDF. That's going to take away all of those style headings, and it's going to make it less accessible. So again, if you have the original document, like if you're sharing a PDF version of your syllabus, for example, make sure that you're creating an accessible Word document of your syllabus before you save it as a PDF. And then in that way, your PDF is going to be more accessible as well. And always check the accessibility though, just to be sure. So some accessibility features of note in Adobe Acrobat Pro, they have an accessibility checker. You can set language, you can OCR, you can auto tag documents. Auto tagging, you know, it's a start, but you're going to need to go in there and check and edit those tags too and make sure that they're correct. So some steps for tagging in Acrobat Pro, you're going to open your PDF. You're going to go to Tools, Accessibility, Auto Tag Document if it's untagged, and then you're going to view the Tags panel. So you view, show, hide, navigation panels, and tags, and then you're going to confirm your hierarchy. So you want, you know, heading 1 to be the first heading level, heading 2 to be the second heading level, P for paragraphs, etc. And you'll need to go through and then manually fix the tags that are incorrect. For example, a heading is tagged as a paragraph. Because when someone, for example, is using a screen reader, they can navigate through a document and search, you know, for the headings. But if it's just all paragraph, that makes it a lot less useful and easy to navigate that document using the screen reader. So is the tags panel populated? Are heading levels correct? Are lists and tables properly tagged? Is the content tree logical? So there's not like a random order. We don't have like a heading 4, then a heading 3, then a heading 2. Reading order and logical flow. So the sequence, this is around tags again. So the sequence in which the tags are read by screen readers. If a PDF tag tree is out of order, so a heading appears after a paragraph or images appear before explanatory text, it can be confusing to readers using assistive technology. So you can check this in the Adobe Acrobat Pro tools, the accessibility tools. There's a reading order tool there, and you can view the content order. So you click show order panel and then drag and adjust your boxes and mark elements as artifacts or which means decorative, so that they're skipped. So if there's like a decorative image that's not, meaningful, doesn't add meaning and is unnecessary for the reading of the document, then you can mark that as such. In Acrobat Reader, you can view the reading order via the reading order tool if it's enabled, but you can't edit it. So you need that Pro in order to edit it. If you export from Word or PowerPoint, you can check the original file. You can check the exported file via Reader or Acrobat to confirm that the reading order is correct. Sometimes, or most of the time, reordering in the source file is easier than reordering the PDF. Okay, so I'm going to open up and kind of show you some of these workflows in Adobe Acrobat. All right, so here is just a PDF, a chapter of a open educational resource textbook. And if you open up all tools, you can scroll down. There's a bunch of different tools in here, and you can, kind of go through and look at them. But the one that we're looking for is Prepare for Accessibility. So as I mentioned, there's an automatically tagged PDF button here. This document's already tagged. Would you like to re-tag it? So since this is already tagged, we don't need to. We can check for accessibility and create a report. So we'll start checking, and then it'll tell us on the right-hand side what issues there are. So what are our issues here? Okay, so we're good with all of those things. Logical reading order needs manual check, primary language failed, title failed. So we would want to then fix those issues. Color contrast needs some manual check. We can change reading options, screen reader options, tagged reading order, close the accessibility checker. We can add alternate text. So if there's an image in here that doesn't have alt text, which there aren't any images in this one, but if there were, then we can add alt text. We can fix reading order, which is what I was just talking about. Show the order panel, and we can see the order panel here for each page and make sure that the reading order is correct. So we can see all of the order of things here, and it shows us by number on the actual document. And you can, drag and drop these things. So if you want, it's not going to change the way it visually looks, but if you need to change the way that it behaves in reading order, then you can drag and drop things in the order area, and then that will fix that issue for you for students or anyone who's reading it using assistive technology. So that is the reading order. Let's go to a different document. So this is the a scan document that I scanned. So let's look at this accessibility. We can check for accessibility here. It's not tagged. Primary language failed, bookmarks failed, We need some manual checks there as well. So we can automatically tag this. And then the results will appear once it finishes tagging. It might take a minute. I'm trying to pick a small image here, or I mean a small file. That might take a while. But you know, you'll be able to then see tags on the right-hand side once the automatic tagging has been done. And then adding alternate text, you know, figure information to display, it says, use setup assistant. So you can use this to set options for screen readers. Screen magnifiers are all accessibility options. So there's this setup assistant that can help you focus on what you're trying to fix too. So that's Adobe Reader Pro. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can do, and it's, again, like I said, it's going to be painstaking to fix things in Pro. So whenever possible, like kind of looking for already accessible documents is going to be really important. Let's see here. Okay, so I mentioned headings. So they allow users, as I mentioned, to skip through sections. They provide some semantic structure. They help with navigation for screen readers. So in PDFs, it'll look like a H1, H2, H3, and you'll be able to see that in your tags, and you'll be able to see the structure there, the reading structure. So alt tags, or alt text, this is for images, graphs, charts. They need descriptive alt text so that users who can't see the image still get the meaning of it. Decorative images, you can mark those as artifacts in Adobe Acrobat Pro if you use that add alternate text tool. So for alt text, one common, I think, error with alt text is just saying this is an image of X, Y, or Z. Like, you need to make it as descriptive as possible so that someone who cannot see the image or the graph or the chart gets the same thing out of it as someone who can see it. So, you know, what information do they need from that image in order to get meaning from it? So make your alt text as descriptive as possible, as meaningful as possible. You can look for headings visually in your documents and then confirm that the tags reflect those heading levels. So just because something is bold or looks like a heading doesn't mean it's going to read as a heading using assistive technology. So make sure that you're looking at, okay, this looks like a heading. Let's take a look at the tags and make sure that it's tagged as a heading so that it reads that way. Any image that has purpose, especially charts or diagrams, should have alt text. And again, purely decorative images can be a blank alt or marked as an artifact. And again, doing this in the source document is going to save a lot of manual work in Acrobat later, but it can all be done in Acrobat Pro. It just takes time and effort. So it's not just about screen reader accessibility that's important with PDF documents. Visual readability is also important for our sighted students. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. So when we're talking about accessibility, it's easy to focus primarily on screen readers or assistive technology, which is very important because we want things to be accessible for our students with disabilities. But visual accessibility, which it ensures that documents are visually readable, affects every student, not just those with disabilities. So we want to kind of make sure that we're covering all of our bases. A lot of the PDFs that we upload, especially older ones or scanned copies, could suffer from low contrast between text and background. So if we do need to scan something, we want to make sure that we use a good scanner, that, you know, there's sufficient contrast, that there's not blurring of the text, that, you know, if it's possible at all to make things easier on ourselves, if we can OCR while we're scanning, if the scanner is capable of that, then we want to do that. So for example, a gray scan of an off-white background or dark text on a darkened page can be really difficult to read. And that's, you know, also challenging for students with low vision, or students with dyslexia, or students with visual processing differences. Blurred, faded, or skewed text can introduce cognitive load. So students are having to expend energy trying to decode words instead of understanding the meaning. So we don't want there to be barriers to, we don't want to take away the cognitive effort of understanding the concepts or what they're reading by forcing them to try to decode the words and take that energy away. So that's a universal barrier to learning. So some recommendations here to use high quality scans again, or export directly from the original source rather than scanning a printout. Checking contrast, using a color contrast checker if there's colored text or backgrounds. And this is something important to when we're, for example, including PDFs that have color. And if we're saving them in black and white, that could affect the readability too, because everything then is going to be shades of gray. So we want to make sure that there's that contrast. Avoiding decorative watermarks or busy backgrounds that interfere with text clarity is important. And you can test readability by zooming out. So if text looks gray or fuzzy at a normal reading size, then it's probably not going to be accessible. So I do want to do just like a little mini activity if you want to. I'll just include a link, the link there. So open up Blackboard, navigate to one of your classes that has a low scoring PDF file. Or, you know, if you have, you know, a scanned PDF that you just, you use for your own purposes and you want to upload it to like a course shell, you can do that too. But make note of the accessibility percentage score and then click on the Ally accessibility indicator next to that file. Click the preview and apply button to do the PDF quick fix. And it will download a file for you, but click apply and then make note of your new accessibility score. And then in the chat, once you've done that, tell us all how much your score improved. So what was your original score? And then how much did the PDF quick fix for Ally help? So what's your new score after that? So let's take just a few minutes to practice that, like go into our actual course and find something that needs some help and then applying that quick fix to it. So we'll take like just a couple of minutes here, like 5 minutes or so, and I'll pause the recording while we're doing that. Actually, I can't pause the recording, so I'll just cut this part out, the dead silence. But let's take, you know, just a handful of minutes and try that out. And then once I'll know you're done when you post in the chat your accessibility score to start and then your new accessibility score. Everyone at the beginning was 0% accessible before because it was a scanned PDF or scanned PDF of a physical book. To after I did the Ally PDF quick fix, which OCR'd the document, it was then 36% accessible, which is great. That's a big improvement. So no accessibility to, you know, about a little over a third accessible, 36% accessible. And then, you know, it told me what else was wrong with it. I needed headings, so I can then open that new OCR document and check the tags and the headings in Adobe Acrobat Pro and improve it even more. Okay, so you had one that had 7%, but you couldn't see the preview and apply button. So that will show, the preview and apply will usually show with, was it a scanned PDF? I think it only works if your PDF is not OCR'd, because I think that is the quick fix, is OCRing. And hopefully they'll improve the PDF fixes even more to add, maybe add tags and things like that, and headings have that ability too. So, you know, kind of fingers crossed on more improvements, but it's, you know, it's definitely a start. Whereas before with Blackboard Ally, we didn't have any improvements that you were able to make directly in Blackboard Ally. So everything with the PDF, it told you, okay, upload a new document that has these fixes, and you just kind of had to figure out how to do it. All right, so I've got some additional resources that I'll share with you. I'll share these with you in my follow-up email, but you know, particularly around Adobe Help, they have some Help Center documents, create and verify PDF accessibility. So this will, you know, if you don't remember everything that I told you today, which is completely understandable because it's a lot of information and PDF accessibility is complicated, then that gives you a pretty good guide of how to create and verify PDF accessibility. And then there's also one on tagging and editing your document structure, which is really helpful. So once you use that Blackboard Ally to OCR your document, then you can download that new OCR document and you can focus on the tagging and editing of the structure. There's a Section 508 guide on common PDF tags and their usage. That's really helpful to read, you know, before you start editing tags. There is the Blackboard Ally Instructor Guide in the Anthology Help Center. Will help you, you know, if you're, I think a lot, you know, Ally is pretty self-explanatory, but, you know, it goes through all of the different functions of Blackboard Ally there. And then there's the Anthology blog. This is something that's not in the Ally Instructor Guide yet. They don't make mention of the quick PDF fixes, but I'll share with you the blog article that they just released recently on how you can make quick PDF fixes in Anthology Ally. So again, I'll share those with those of you who are here today in my follow-up email. The NIU Disability Resource Center. So if you do have students with documented disabilities who need accommodations, 2 documents, they're a great resource. The Disability Resource Center, they're the ones who come up with those accommodations, and they can help you figure out how to apply those accommodations, how to implement them. So I will send you a link as well to the DRC resources for faculty and staff. So any questions before I let you go today? I know there's a lot of information and some complexities there. And hopefully this was helpful. Thank you all for coming. If you have any questions that you want to stick around to ask, go ahead. But otherwise, have a great rest of your day. Try not to blow away with this crazy wind that we're having today. And if you think of any questions around accessibility with PDF documents or with any documents, really, you can feel free to contact me. Like I said, I'll send you a follow-up email and you can respond to that, or you can just message me on Teams or email me directly, and I'd be happy to help with any of your accessibility questions or needs. Also, just one thing to note, we have coming up in November 18th is Fix Your Content Day. So this is a kind of global competition that Anthology puts out, and There's a leaderboard that we'll be on because we're going to be involved with the event, but we'll send out a flyer about it with some more information. But basically, we'll have a whole day full of virtual events, including a kickoff and 3 different workshops on accessibility, as well as some open office hours in the afternoon for anyone to either drop in person or drop in on Teams, and get some help with specific accessibility issues. So if you have like that 7% PDF accessible file, you can pop in and we can help you make that more accessible, for example. So be on the lookout for more information about that, but any accessibility fixes that you make directly using Ally in your courses will count towards our leaderboard. So try to get involved with that if you're interested, and that's a great way to kind of increase visibility for accessibility at NIU. So have a great rest of your day and great rest of your week, and be on the lookout for that email from me if you are here live today.